What's up, Taiwan? I'm Rik Glauert with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Defence ministers and military leaders from around the world gathered in Singapore this weekend for the Shangri-La Dialogue, Asia's premier security forum. But some of this year's gravest concerns came from voices outside the region. Not much time for niceties in Singapore as the world's top defence and military leaders gather at the Shangri-La Dialogue, many bringing stark warnings about rising security threats to the delicate international order, including about Chinese President Xi Jinping.
It has to be clear to all that Beijing is credibly preparing to potentially use military force to alter the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. We know, it's public, that Xi has ordered his military to be capable of invading Taiwan by 2027. The PLA is building the military needed to do it, training for it every day, and rehearsing for the real deal.
Taiwan faces an existential threat from China, which claims the self-ruled island nation of 24 million people as part of its territory and has been increasingly conducting military drills around the country. But it's not just near Taiwan that China is throwing its weight militarily.
China's activities are getting more expansive and more aggressive. Their demonstrations of force are getting more frequent. And in the West Philippine Sea, we are getting used to their activities, but they have expanded the areas where they are doing it. To include their exercises of Australia and New Zealand.
And the message from the US to this region is clear. The China threat is real and the Indo-Pacific needs to boost defence spending to meet this danger. While French President Emmanuel Macron, bringing lessons from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, called for a new alliance between Europe and Asia based on shared principles.
The rules must remain the inviolability of borders, respect for sovereignty, refusal to use force as a means of domination, and we must cultivate a spirit of independence and a desire for cooperation.
Conspicuous in his absence, China's defence minister, Beijing instead sending representatives from the country's National Defence University to hit back on claims of rising Chinese aggression.
我们不接受对中方的无端指责。 有的内容无中生有，有的颠倒黑白，有的贼喊捉贼，根本就是挑起事端、制造分裂、煽动对抗、搞乱亚太，这违反潮流，不得人心，也不可能得逞。
The lack of a high-level delegation from Beijing here as the world's top security officials meet may be a warning in itself. The stakes are rising here in the Indo-Pacific, and the time for talk may be running out. Ryan Wu and Rik Glauert for TaiwanPlus. An Israeli strike near an aid distribution point in Gaza has killed at least 30 people, according to Palestinian news agency Wafa. More than 100 people are reportedly being treated at nearby Nasser hospital. Eyewitnesses and journalists say Israeli tanks opened fire as thousands were gathering at a US and Israel-backed distribution center. Israel has blocked nearly all food and essential supplies entering Gaza for months. It recently began handing out aid at points like this one. Israel has not yet commented. Taiwan is trying to build up a drone industry. It wants to use drones in its own defense and also benefit from the China-US rivalry. Louise Watt reports.
Manufacturers at an AI innovation centre in southwestern Taiwan are giving visitors from Asia a taste of what the country hopes will be its next big product: drones. Already the world's leading semiconductor hub, Taiwan is now trying to build a drone industry. It's mostly producing drones for civilian uses like disaster response and traffic management. But it's also making drones for military purposes, part of a shifting defence strategy as it faces increasing threats from China, which claims sovereignty over democratic Taiwan.
Well, we know that based on the war in Ukraine, they've been using a lot of drones because they might be short of manpower. So this can be the same situation in Taiwan as well because we don't have as many manpower compared to China.
In developing a drone industry, Taiwan is also competing with Beijing on another level. It wants to become an alternative supplier to China, which dominates drone making. As the US and other countries look to reduce dependence on Chinese manufacturers, Taiwan hopes it can step in. Here in the rural county of Jiayi, it set up a base for drone development and testing, part of its plan to become an Asian hub of drone supply chains for democratic nations. Legislator Guanting Chen of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party says he believes Taiwan is on the right track, but that it should target its own market first.
I would urge the Ministry of National Defense to open more bids to make sure that we have enough during the conflict time. Well, we hope that day will never come, but we need to stockpile those things so when the time comes, we have enough. And this is also a great deterrence to China to tell them we are going to prepare.
Here in Jiayi, Taiwan is demonstrating to potential Japanese suppliers and customers that its drone industry is already off the ground. Now it is trying to scale it up so the country can produce enough drones to also help protect itself in any future conflict with China. Hank Xu, Eason Chen and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
It's the Dragon Boat Festival long weekend here in Taiwan. While many people have taken the chance to go abroad, there's plenty to do for those who choose to stay in the country. Leslie Liao has more.
888 upright watermelons line a road in southern Taiwan. An odd sight any other week, but this is Dragon Boat Festival weekend. People usually balance eggs upright on this holiday, believing it to be a sign of good luck in the coming year. Legend has it that the sun's position over the earth during this time makes it easier for eggs to stand up because of gravity. But instead of eggs, this part of Taiwan is using watermelons because they're a local specialty. Another Dragon Boat Festival tradition takes place here at Sword Well in Taichung City in central Taiwan. The well is thought to have come about when a famous general stuck his sword into the ground and water swelled out. It's said the water from this well is teeming with powerful life force at noon on the day of the Dragon Boat Festival. People collect what's colloquially known as noon water for good luck. All 500 available bottles of the lucky water were snatched up, showing just how serious Dragon Boat Festival traditions are here in Taiwan. Some opted to travel abroad over the long weekend, but if attendance is anything to go by, domestic Dragon Boat Festival celebrations are still a strong draw for people in Taiwan. Hank Xu and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is hailed as a liberal haven for LGBTQ+ people, but a peek at the demographics of its politicians show it's a community that remains underrepresented, with only a handful of openly queer elected politicians, none of whom are men. At the beginning of Pride Month, Reese Ayres asked what's stopping gay people from getting into politics or from getting elected.
There's barely a surface that isn't covered with soft toys or pride flags in the office of Sabrina Lim's humble team. Lim is a Taipei City Councillor and chair of its Gender Equality Promotion Committee. But it's one of her staffers, Antonio Wu, who gives me the tour. Wu has been working for Lim as a policy assistant for about 2 years. And as a self-professed changemaker, he says he could see himself getting even deeper into politics in the future.
喂，那君研究室你好。我觉得我自己怎么样驱动我去做这份工作，就是怎么样去 make wave， 然后 make a change， 是我很重视的事情。所以 maybe 也许有机会的话，会想到政府部门里面去，会尝试看看这样子。
If Wu did join the ranks of city councillor or higher, he'd be one of a tiny handful of openly gay politicians ever to hold office in Taiwan. There are currently just 2 out LGBTQ+ legislators, neither who came out voluntarily, and around half a dozen councillors, all of whom are women. Wu explains why he thinks there isn't a single openly gay man in Taiwanese politics today.
对于男性的代议士来说，可能会有一个比较希望他们 very decisive, very masculine 的想象。可是如果说今天这个人他不是在传统上的男性角色的话，未必，我觉得这可能会去挑战大家愿不愿意去把这个票投给这个人。
Just down the hallway from Wu is Miao Boya's office, one of the few openly gay councillors in Taiwan. Queer rights and representation have long been a key issue for Miao, who has experienced firsthand the fallout of being out in politics. Just last year, a Taiwan People's Party legislator made fun of her in front of thousands of people. She explains what he said in Taiwanese.
迄个苗博雅，伊的清差，我唔知影要叫伊休假，我唔知是唔是要叫伊休假。
Since getting involved in politics almost a decade ago, Miao says many people, some she says who were well-meaning, have tried to persuade her she'd have more electoral success if she fit better into society's expectations of what a woman should look like.
They say you have to make yourself look like a girl or use more maybe like a pink color in your campaign.
But Miao refuses to dilute her identity.
That is another example to disencourage the youth, because I'm telling them if you want to be success in politics, you have to hide yourself from the public.
Miao has seen progress, though. She says the locker room talk that was previously commonplace in politics has started fading away, since more women and queer people have found seats at the table. But even still, running as an openly gay candidate puts you at an immediate disadvantage. A recent survey by the Taiwan Equality Campaign gauges social acceptance of queer people across Taiwanese society. Around 77% of respondents said they would be accepting of gay classmates or colleagues, and around 72% said they'd accept a gay teacher or supervisor. But acceptance dropped to around 69% when asked about gay political representatives. That number drops even further when asked about their own children. Advocates point to holes in legal equality as helping foster prejudice in Taiwan, including a lack of anti-discrimination laws.
Like for commercial behavior or for online hate speech targeting the whole community, not only targeting single person, cannot be regulated now. Of course, we want our government to do more, to provide adult education to let the general public to know more about LGBT.
Taiwan has no shortage of heterosexual politicians who support queer causes, including current President Lai Ching-te, who, during his campaign, promised to continue his predecessor Tsai Ing-wen's legacy of expanding rights for queer people.
未来我会跟大家站在一起，在多元同行的路上一起迈进。
But for now, at least, allies might not be enough. By getting involved in politics, gay people like Miao Boya and Antonio Wu are hoping to change public perceptions about their community and push for a legislature that better represents the demographics of the people it serves.
或者是说年轻的一辈愿意进来的时候，我觉得都是一个有点像是路标，有点像是灯塔是一样的效果。
Advocates say that more diversity in the legislature and across the political spectrum will make future generations of queer people feel safer and more inspired to get involved with politics and become advocates for communities that, as of right now, have little to no representation in government. Klein Wang, Ryan Wu and Rees for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out these people in Lithuania celebrating traditional beetroot soup. I'm Rik Glauert. Take care, and we will see you next time.